Namaste and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talk 193rd episode. In the last 192 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 3,000 school leaders on this very platform where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovations, and what all new are they doing in the education space. तो नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स के 193वें एपिसोड में। पिछले 192 एपिसोड्स में हमने करीबन 3,000 से ज्यादा स्कूल लीडरों से, शिक्षकों से बात की और उनसे समझने की कोशिश की कि वो शिक्षा को कैसे बदल रहे हैं और शिक्षा उन्हें कैसे बदल रही है। पोस्ट कोविड, द वर्ल्ड ऑफ एजुकेशन हैज एब्सोल्युटली collapsed and at the same time rebuilt itself or reincarnated itself like a phoenix from its own ashes, and now education is seeing a kind of a revolution, not just in the face of technology but in the face of people, in the face of interaction, in the face of transaction, the way we interact every single day with the learner. And the kind of relationship that the teacher-learner had has become super dynamic now. So now let's talk about a relationship that we don't talk a lot about, which is the relationship between the people who are there within a campus. तो जब स्कूल के एक कैंपस में बच्चा आता है तो वो एक ऐसा इंटरेक्शन है जो भले ही डोरमेंट है लेकिन वो इंटरेक्शन हमेशा हो रहा है. So let's talk about making school campuses sustainable. And most importantly, when we say a sustainable school campus, what do we really mean by it? Is it the infrastructure? Is it the people? Is it the interaction? Is it the communication? Is it the perception? Or what do we really want from it? And most importantly, the world talks about sustainability, but nobody lives it right now. And are schools in a position that they can afford being sustainable in reality? So thank you so much, everyone, once again for joining in. This is the 193rd episode. Before we start off, just some ground rules. This is a speaking sprint. It's not a speaking marathon. So once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity interesting for everyone. Secondly, it's a bilingual platform, so you can use English or Hindi, any of these two languages. If you want to use a third one, you can, but I won't get it. So request you to please use English and Hindi only during this conversation. So let's now initiate the roundtable for today. Let me invite somebody to share his experience of value education, higher education, and sustainability within campuses. A very warm welcome to Dr. Shoury Kuttappa, the Academic Manager and Counselor of the Directorate of Admissions and Academic Outreach for Amrita Vidyapeetham, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Shoury sir, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Daksh. I was really afraid that you're going to ask me to go first, and thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here. I don't really have a roadmap on what to sort of present, but I'll take a leaf from your introduction and try to sort of unravel what sustainability could look like. It's a multi-dimensional kind of a statement or a phrase when we talk about sustainability. But I think most views converge on one aspect, which is the reduction or the curtailment of your ecological footprint. Not necessarily physical, directly connected only to infrastructure, but anything that connects to the ecology as a whole. So any institution or any community, not necessarily just the buildings, etc., any community, any space, any living area, any city, any anywhere where people have substantially addressed or managed to reduce their ecological footprint is a space which has moved towards sustainable practices. This could be one perspective. Another perspective attached to sustainability is the community. If it is if it's a community that we're talking about, or if it's an institution or an organization, the management's focus towards it, what the management's vision and how the vision attaches itself to the ecological footprint as such. bringing it down very specifically, what can institutions like ours do when we are looking at addressing sustainability? I believe there are one or two things. One, like what you said in your introduction, we try to address the campus or the institution directly addresses its overall environmental footprint. Number two is, owing to the fact that we are educational institutions, we can involve ourselves in insightful research on what can make sustainable practices that much more efficient. And the third part, of course, is since as we are an educational institution, uh, our our interaction with our students, our interaction with the students' parents, and associated. Thereby, we try to educate or bring in practices, and we cultivate habits that originate from our institutions, but then move on across the globe. So these are a couple of areas where I thought educational institutions like ours have a direct bearing.
Thank you so much, Parisa. So I think you started with the ecological sustainability aspect of the topic, coming to community sustainability, and finally, how can educational institutions play a role just beyond exemplification? Can they get into research? Can they get into community engagement? Can they get into encouraging the whole community? So I think these are three quite important parts of the topic. But from school leaders, now we would want to know that how do they visualize a sustainable school? Do they think that infrastructure plays the most critical role? Is only reducing your carbon footprint or ecological sustainability everything? Or there are more aspects to it? And what are they doing within their schools that other schools can emulate? Because essentially, we need to understand a school is not an entity that can afford everything. So we need to give solutions that are replicable and that are affordable. So let's try to know from school leaders, what do they think on the topic of sustainable school campuses? Let me invite the first school leader for today's discussion, Ms. Radhika Srinivasan, principal of the Shri Universal School from Mumbai, Maharashtra. Radhika, ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Namaste. I think this is a very, very critical and very crucial discussion, and I'm extremely happy to be part of this because the Shri Universal School, at the Shri Universal School, we have certain, sustainable practices, and we take our environmental responsibility extremely seriously. And also on a personal note, I have just, submitted a thesis in environmental education and nature education, so to say. So this topic is extremely close to my heart. So what we do at the Shri Universal School is we have set out certain eco policies. We do not use balloons for decoration. We do not use microplastic or glitter. Of course, we don't use styrofoam and thermocol that many institutions are following that. We don't have any single-use plastic on campus, so we do not have disposable water bottles. We avoid using tissue paper. We do not wrap gifts in shiny paper. We use newspaper. We do not use cut flowers for our guests or for the mementos. We have either saplings or seeds that we give away as mementos and giveaways. We have a very robust environmental consciousness program running all the way from kindergarten up to middle school. And what the children are learning in that program is everything to do about how they can impact and the choices that they make, how they can impact the environment. So, everything about not only telling them the problem of pollution, but asking them that what could it be that you can do. So, for example, a very simple thing that, all of us, we buy milk in milk packets, right? And the most common practice is to snip off one corner of the milk packet and pour out the milk into a container. But that small triangular piece of that milk packet is something which gets choked in oceans. So our students have actually done this, they've been sensitized that do not cut off that entire corner of the milk packet. You just slit it a little bit so that the whole packet remains together. So very simple things. Last year we ran into a couple of not last year, year before last, when we were having our sports day, we ran into this problem that how could we serve on our sports day? How could we serve water, or how could we serve glucon D for all the children who were participating in the sports? Because we didn't want that after we had finished the sports day, there would be a mountain of plastic glasses, as a result of our event. So, we brainstormed and this came up from the student council. Ma'am, we'll carry our own glasses from home. So they actually carried, each one of them carried either steel glasses or whatever, glass tumblers. And they each one had to just take that one and they could serve themselves from the dispenser. So I think it's very important that schools look at these. Um, we have to kind of sensitize the students, and it's our moral and ethical responsibility to also reach out to the community. So the school students are not only being taught, but our initiative is to let their neighbors know. So we are doing a Tetra pack recycling campaign. We are doing so many recycling initiatives we are getting into. I'm trying to make it possible to make our school uniform, the shoe that goes into the school uniform, made from recycled plastic bottles. So when right now, of course, during the rains they don't wear shoes, but later on, perhaps in September or October, our shoes are going to be made of recycled plastic. So I think we have to walk the talk.
Thank you so much, Radhika ma'am. I think some very good suggestions that can easily be emulated across schools. And I think one very important factor where I think students must be involved essentially is building a sustainability policy within the school. That can you take some policy level decision as a student that, okay, within my school campus, these things won't happen. And I myself will be following it. This policy has to democratically come into the school, because if it's not forced, it's easily implemented. Because children decide that, okay, this is what we want to do in it. No single-use plastics and decor in your school, reducing paper use, sustainable gifting, conscious event planning, and finally you're trying for recycled material shoes. I think this is a decision that's quite, easy to emulate across schools. We would also want to know that how can we make campuses more sustainable? Like there's a school in Bangalore called the Green School. So we had Usha ma'am just in the last session where we talked about sustainability. She told that how has she shifted, taken decisions to make construction sustainable, the new wing that they're making, what are they doing and how are they making it affordable? Because the biggest challenge with sustainability is that if you try to make sustainable campuses, it becomes too expensive. And how do you find alternates to it that are available locally, you can source locally, and which are also affordable at the same time? So thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Mr. Vividh Gupta, the principal of Bhavan Public School from Mayur, Vihar, Delhi. Vividh, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So I completely, echo the views that Radhika ma'am has just shared. So, I personally feel that today what we are talking about is not only the education. We are talking about education for sustainability and preparing the children for education in such a manner that they are making an impact in the society and they become the reason to be the change makers is something which is very important. So we are also, like Radhika ma'am has mentioned, we are also involving the children in many activities, not only activities, but best practices, I should be saying. So we initiated a project called Maybe Gandhi in the year September 2019. So we got a circular from the department stating that during the Swachhta week, that is the October 1st week, we will be required to organize the Fit India Plog Run, where the children will be collecting the plastic waste and, the single-use plastic needs to be banned. So the idea came from there that why only we are talking about the single-use plastic? Why not segregate the waste at source? So, what we did was we involved the entire community, the school support staff, the teachers, the parents, the students, everybody was involved into it, and students volunteered themselves. So whatever bins we were having in the school, they were in different colors. And now when you come to the school and you see them, they are in only 3 colors. They are either yellow bins, they are blue bins, and then they are green bins. And we have kept the white color cardboard bins where the children will dispose the paper waste. So we also have the infrastructural advantage where we have a paper recycling unit in our school, and the students go and recycle their paper at their own. We have got a terrace garden in the school where we are growing the organic veggies for the students and for the guests who are visiting the school. We are also having the solar power plant installed, which is utilizing about 80% of the electricity is generated from there, plus rainwater harvesting system. So everything, like, things are there. So what is happening now is when they are segregating the dry and the waste, the wet waste, we are utilizing it to decompose, and we are creating the manure that can be utilized in the school gardens. Whereas when we talk about the dry waste, we have linked up with certain organizations who are collecting the dry waste, and then they are giving incentives to the school. So what we are doing is we are collecting the paper waste, and then the paper waste goes to an organization who's going to weigh it, and in lieu of the paper, they're going to give us the pens and the notepads that we use for the conferences when the guests are coming. So it is completely labeled, and that enhances the entire aura. Number 2, when we are talking about the plastic waste, so the plastic recyclers, they take away the waste from us, and again we get the useful material for our EWS students studying under EWS category, the disadvantaged group, who probably are unable to arrange the stationery and the notebooks for themselves. So we supply the material to them. Apart from that, we have also initiated e-waste management, where we are encouraging, e-waste is something which is a challenge. People like us, if we have got a phone which is not working any longer, we would not want to disown it or give it for free for recycling. So what is happening here is that sensitization is something which is a great challenge. So we have to first sensitize the children. Children take the lead, they go back to the parents, sensitize them, and then we get the e-waste. So the teachers, they have to become the role model in this particular area. So with the COVID and the pandemic coming in, electronic waste generation has exaggerated like anything, and we need to have a control over that. So if today we are not able to see that the e-waste is going to be a problem, but in future, another 5-7 years, I'm sure that we will start talking about e-waste management also. So that is another very important aspect. I'll just take one quick second to mention about the annual science exhibition that we are organizing in our school, where the entire concept is centered around identifying the problems. So I was watching the video before the session was beginning about the World Teen Parliament. So my students are participating in this event, and we have about 20 students associated with this World Teen Parliament. And they are the ones who are taking the lead in all the activities. So they decided that they are going to prepare their models and projects on the idea where they're going to identify the problems, not only ecological problems, but maybe the civic sense on the roads and other things. And then they have to find a solution for that. So what could be a sustainable solution is something which is very important, which is, which in turn we are able to apply in a general routine. So that is something we are going to inaugurate it on the 1st of August next week. And it will be put up physically, both physically and virtually on the school website. Thank you so much for giving that time.
Thank you so much, Vividh. I think you're doing quite a lot within the school, and a very good idea, I think, which other schools can start doing, is a paper recycling unit within the school. It's not expensive, it can easily be done, and it looks very good, because if you're able to create many textures, many forms of paper, many colors of paper, and this could essentially become a very good craft activity. Because the challenge right now that you see in the complete paper industry is we don't have pulp. Pulp is super expensive, paper is getting super expensive. So this is something that I think every school must have a paper recycling unit within the school. And that's the biggest part why you can have it. It's affordable. It's easy to be there, and it's easy to maintain. I think you talked about the paper recycling unit in the schools. Recyclers take stationery supply chain optimization that you've already done. You're tied up with an organization, you're recycling all the paper, they're giving you stationery in return. I think a very good idea that I think a lot of schools can do with their publishers. You can talk to these people, they can create a kind of an ecosystem where paper goes and you get paper back, rather, money going again and again into the whole system of it. E-waste is a big challenge right now. It's going to be a big challenge. I think countries have already started recognizing this with a very simple decision that the European Union also made, that you will have, all the companies will have to use a simple, the same similar USB-C port for everything. So this is something that has to be done and must be done. And a very good initiative that you're doing is identifying the problems and giving them solutions. This is the need of the hour, because we are in a part of the development of the country, of as individuals, as communities, that right now what we need is not a lot of revolution, but a lot of evolution. And not in the sense of just the natural evolution happening. There has to be some man-made evolution that has to happen. And that can only happen through problem solving. And I really appreciate the Maybe Gandhi initiative that you did at this school. So let me now invite the next speaker to share her views on the idea of sustainable school campuses. Mrs. Mahejabeen Kausar, the principal of MS Creative School from Malakpet, Hyderabad, Telangana. Mahejabeen ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. World Teen Parliament is doing a wonderful job. So I congratulate you on that, first of all. My students are joining and they have won previous year, they got elected, nearly 4 students. So thank you so much for giving the teens the platform to showcase all these talents which they possess. Holding this important and responsible post, I often bring awareness about greenery among my students. Usually I tell them that, Go Green is one of the biggest initiative which we have taken in the school. And we love greenery around us. So most of the students are into it. And school assembly, I personally feel early morning is the right place to guide students to stop using disposable items and rather focus on sticking to permanent reusable plates, cutlery, cups. They save a lot of money with that. That is what we always tell them. In the long run, by using these reusable items, we tell them that you need to go with this. And we also encourage student community to go digital, just now as sir said, to reduce paper usage. That is one of the biggest things which we are doing, asking the students to take notes on computers rather than wasting paper, and only print things which are really needed. We are even bringing that sensitivity among them. And we are also encouraging the staff to go digital. That's also the initiative we have taken. So most of the things we are using as PDFs and sharing, especially the lesson plans, the diaries and all that, we are doing it totally digitally now. And thirdly, what I ask my students is to create a system wherein hand wash water, which we wash, should be utilized for watering the plants. That way, a big pipeline can be prepared or something like that. The arrangement can be done, and then the students, can use that. And what even my students came up with this idea, as you said, that we need to give them the voice to, opine. So I encouraged them to come forward, and they said that why not plant seeds with the fruits which they consume on daily basis as a snack in the school. So even that is being initiated by the grace of God. And having compost pits instead of dustbins, that's also is encouraged in our school. And our MS Creative schools across India will surely guide students to go green in all our campuses. And not only this, they'll educate young people through this wonderful platform. It's not just that I'm appreciating World Teen Parliament definitely it's going to bring a revolution among teens. And you are doing a wonderful job, Daksh Gaur sir. I really appreciate the way you're guiding the teens and encouraging them to come forward to do things. Hopefully, we'll bring a revolution in the field of this and sustainability among our campuses. Thank you so very much for giving the opportunity to voice my opinion at this wonderful and amazing platform of World Teen Parliament, Blub World.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I think some very good ideas that you've given, that let's promote using of reusables, promoting less paper use, going digital, recycling water, and I think fruit seed preservation from their tiffins. I think this would be a very simple campaign that schools can do everywhere. Let's try to create a repository of seeds within the school. And how can you do it without absolutely no cost? And I think your school is doing really amazing at the World Teen Parliament. I think the MPs who got elected also met the governor and the education minister of Telangana. They also proposed some very good solutions to them. And we are also giving them more opportunities so that they can meet influential people, influence policies. And they must understand as a teenager that don't suggest, act. Give a solution rather than just an imagination that you present on paper. It has to come into action. Even if it's very low on scale, very small, that doesn't make a difference. Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Mr. Jainul Haq, the principal of Jemua Badhubala Vidyapeetham from Durgapur, West Bengal. Jainul ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome. What we try to do in all the Blub World web talks is we try to bring in as much geographical variety as possible, because we need to understand that education is not elitist, and it must never be elitist. It has to go into every deep corner of society and community. Energy, over to you. If you're there, please unmute yourself. So we've listened to all the speakers. Now is an open floor. But before we go into an open floor, there's a very simple question that I want to put to all of you. Do you think sustainable school campus is theoretical right now, is important right now, or you think it's basically diverting attention? And sustainability on the aspect of reducing carbon footprint. So over to you. Anyone from you can open your audio, speak out. It's an open session now.
I personally feel, Daksh, that it is something which is very, very important and urgent to be talked about with our students in the classes today. So, in the month of June, when Sadhguruji came to India with his Save Soil campaign, we tried to link it with our Maybe Gandhi project. So the idea of Maybe Gandhi project is to ensure that we are not generating waste, and we are trying to ensure that the waste is segregated at the source so that the quality of the soil is, kept intact. And that is the idea that Sadhguruji is also talking about. So ultimately, at the end of the day, bringing what is happening in the school with and link it to the curriculum is something important. So what we are doing during our summer vacations, we are allowing the children to engage into group projects where they are doing water audit, they are doing electricity audit, they are doing waste audit at their home, and then linking it to mathematics, linking it to social sciences, then brainstorming and identifying what it could lead, what kind of problem it will lead to, and how we can actually rectify it. So when the children come up, they actually cross-question that the answer or the solution that you were giving at this particular moment, probably there is some error and we need to go back and check that. So probably the children are not able to get the answer correctly, but at least that attempt, that, that willingness to accept that there is a problem that exists, and I will ensure that how I can bring a change and solve that particular problem is something which is very important. So we need to prepare the children for the future. Class 12th English book, I often speak to my students, and the English textbook, there is a chapter, and in that there is a quote which says that we have not inherited that our earth from our ancestors, but we've borrowed it from the future generation. And this is something which each individual needs to understand. The moment the text becomes the reality, they're able to see that, okay, this is the problem that exists and I am one amongst it. So that is something which is very important. So there is no plan B to save the earth. So we have to take the action now, and there is no second thought about it.
Absolutely. I think Indian mythology clearly defines that debt in three forms of debt. How do you pay back? You have to understand that the earth that you're living in is a debt. It's not an inheritance. You don't command it. You're just getting it for your preservation of your life. Yes. So again, open any more suggestions, any more ideas.
Yeah, so that's, as your question was that, do you think that, it's a doomsday approach, or do you think that it is relevant and all? I think it is extremely critical. The doomsday approach has always been a part of climate change and other discussions, even at COP26 or even at the highest levels. But I think we are experiencing it now. We're really seeing dramatic changes in the temperatures. I mean, Canada went through a heat wave. Canada, which is frozen, and there are forest fires all around. So it's there, and the writing is on the wall. So I think it's very critical, and students are very perceptive. And once you work on their mindset and attitudes, it's going to become a way of life. Unfortunately, we have not given them a good planet to live in. We have made it hostile. We have, there's biodiversity loss, or there is pollution, and there is all kinds of problems. So I think it's up to us to at least sensitize them and ensure that there's no further damage or further, destruction to the ecosystems or to the environment. And there are studies to show that the next 15 to 20 years, green careers are going to be the most important. careers which are in environmental engineering or in biotechnology to produce new sources of food. So people are already looking at seaweed as a source of food or insects as a source of food, because we are not going to have enough to feed the millions that are being born every day. So these careers are going to be very crucial for the students, and it's high time that they get into the mode of environment protection and conservation.
Vividh wants to speak something. Vividh, over to you.
Yes. So just adding on to what Radhika ma'am just mentioned about the green occupation that we are talking about. So CBSE also introduced its skill subjects of lately, and there is a part in the skill subjects that talks about employability skills, and that employability skill module has 5 units. Out of those 5 units, first is the communication, ICT skills, self-management skills, entrepreneurial skills, and you would be surprised that the 5th unit that they have incorporated is the green skills. So when we are talking about skill education, we are talking about vocational education. Our policy makers are also very much at it, and they're aware about it, that this is the demand and we need to prepare the children for it. The UN SDG goals, the 17 goals that we are following, and we are teaching our children in the classroom, it's very important that our school campuses reflect that kind of an environment. So, organizing the annual events like ma'am also mentioned, and ensuring that there is zero waste, there is no hunger, is something which is very important. There is community participation. We are talking about climate change. We are talking about saving the water, animals and the plants and the life under the water. So all these aspects are very important, and they are directly linked to us. So we need to talk to our children and let them know that what we are doing in our classrooms today is definitely going to help them create a better future for them. So that positive talk in the classroom, that association with what is happening around them in the classroom, is the responsibility of the teacher. So the school management might create wonderful infrastructure where the children will come in and everything will happen. But eventually the role of the teacher is going to be very important. So during one of my CBSE sessions, I was talking and we were discussing about BALA. So BALA in capital letters. What it is talking about building as learning aid. So creating that kind of aura in the classroom, in the school surrounding, where we are utilizing every corner of the school, every wall, every door, and the child is learning from that. So that is something which is very important. So when we talk about sustainability, it's not only about ecology, it's also about my personal health. So if I am concerned about my personal health, I will automatically think about what are the factors that is affecting my health. Am I a team player? Am I very active in sports? Am I, doing yoga? So everything connects well. It's not, nothing is in silo. Everything is connected. So that is something which is very important. And hence we created this special period in our timetable, which is called Global Citizenship Program. We call it GCP period. So 40 minutes every day, the children are exposed to numerous ideas and topics, and it is led by the students. It is not led by the teacher. The teacher introduces the topic, the children take it away, and then 40 minutes, the kind of energy that the children are having, you should go and see in the classroom. I mean, it's tremendous. And the ideas that flow in, that really lets you know that the children want to bring that positive change in the environment.
Absolutely. I think at this point, I think a question actually gets directed to Shoury, sir, that are universities, higher education institutions ready with the green skills and the green occupations? Because when we specifically look at India, तो बहुत बड़ा एक चैलेंज ये होता है that higher education always lags behind. कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है, schools are able to do a lot, but higher education support नहीं कर पाती, क्योंकि higher education के अंदर compliance बहुत सारा है, courses बहुत बड़े-बड़े बनाने होते हैं. So what's your perception or your idea on this, that are higher education institutions ready, and is Amrita doing something to incorporate green skills?
I really feel humbled, and I also feel a little more educated from what we've heard in the last 30, 40 odd minutes. And I thank everyone here. Thank you so much. I'd probably share two perspectives. One is, again, connected on the thought of sustainable universities probably are those who are focused on meeting the needs of the present without compromising on the needs of the future generations. Just one perspective that's floating, that's there on the table about what sustainable universities look like. So if I were to follow this perspective, the question that arises is, what is going to be the needs of the future generation? Talking metaphorically, if I were to sit down and focus on saving fossil fuels today, in another 20 years, if fossil fuels is completely irrelevant, then am I actually being sustainable today is the question that arises. If I'm going to sit down and focus on ensuring that electricity is available for future generations, and 20 years from now, if air, hydrogen or oxygen pulled out of air becomes the primary fuel that is being used to heat and run engines, then where exactly am I in my sustainability goals today? So I think the challenge universities, and not just universities, we all face is that we are preparing students for a future which we don't know about ourselves. We are aware of what's going to come. We are able to predict the next 4 years, 5 years, maybe to some extent 8, 9 years, but beyond that is is something we can't really put our finger on. Therefore, the role of the educators, like was highlighted by Mr. Vividh, is that the challenge that educators are dealing with, is that they are preparing students for a future which they themselves are not aware of. So this is one perspective. Of course, there's a lot of debate that it actually opens up. Another perspective which I thought I wanted to put on the floor is on the focus on sustainable development. And though we have seen what we can and we have been doing internally, I just wanted to take a broader view of what sustainability could actually. We've spoken about water, we've spoken about clean energy, we've spoken about recycling, we've spoken about minimizing damage to the environment, but there are other aspects of sustainability which also come into play. For instance, I think the UN's number one sustainability goal is to address poverty. And in addressing poverty, I believe we are actually, that is a bigger sustainability goal if you look at in terms of what may be required in the future, etc. So things like that, poverty becomes one where Mr. Vividh spoke about hunger, good health and well-being. These are three UN's top three things which come on the primary list of UN's top sustainability goals, which I think, and if you look at the rest of the goals, they are climate, environment related things. I think the first one comes around 8th or 9th, if I may be wrong. And the second one comes around 13th. And the last one comes, I think, 16th or 15th. So I think, somewhere while of course, like you said, somewhere in our own spheres, we are able to do what best we can. But there's a lot of focus required in, addressing poverty. Could be, one of, I think, Amrita's initiatives is well known, where students go out, live in villages. They are mandated to stay there for 4 weeks to 3 months, identify an existing problem in the village, address it. There are a lot of university collaborations we have. We call these live-in labs, where, we have a lot of collaborations with universities outside India also. A lot of students come to gain that experience in Indian villages, where they sit down and address, underlying issues that villages face. It could be anything. It could be how to ensure that waste water is, removed from in front of the houses and it is sort of recycled or whatever it is in affordable, sustainable methods. So if I wanted to remove wastewater from a village, if I had the funds, resources, it can be done, in any ways. So how does that village actually become sustainable? So these are aspects that just one of the aspects that Amrita has been addressing through its Live in Labs projects. It is running across India. There are about 600 such villages across India that are part of the map. And so this is the other aspect of sustainability that I wanted to sort of highlight. Decent work. How do we provide decent work? How do we provide economic growth to everyone? How do we reduce inequalities? In fact, before we talk of inequalities, how do we address gender equality? I think that is 4th or 5th in the top list of UN sustainability this aspect. So I thought peace and justice somewhere in I don't know whether it is on the top 10 or it's later, but peace and justice also somewhere figures under sustainability. So the objective was not to take away the merits of the discussion that we had, which, believe you me, is so much more valuable, and I'm so much more humbled and educated today listening to things that are being done in your institutions across. But I thought it is also important that we look at a broader perspective. We, somehow whenever we talk about sustainability, the focus just goes into infrastructure, which even by my own default, I think even when I began, the first focus is ecology, infrastructure, etc. But sustainability is a very broad term as is. So I think in India, there's a lot of scope for addressing, poverty through education, through, life projects, through, I remember there was a statement in Amrita, which was very popular, where we said, engineers are problem solvers, in the School of Engineering. What kind of a problem solver are you if you can't address problems that exist? And how, if you cannot address these, poverty problems, what kind of a problem solver then are you?
Thank you so much, Shoury, sir. And I think this live-in labs is a very good idea or an initiative that you're doing. Schools cannot do that at such deep scale, but they can start experimenting with it. That, okay, for your next school trip, let's make it a problem-solving trip to a nearby village and find out solutions which can be done without money and only with effort, that people of the community can come together. Because I think a very important element, if you talk of sustainability, which comes in, is funds or money. If money doesn't flow, then the challenge happens. So before this talk comes to an end, I have a friend who was an investment banker in the US. He turned into a social worker and has been living his life like a social worker in India. I was having a discussion with him and he said that if you want to control money, always try to understand the money flow. That where does the money come from and where does the money go? If you're able to understand the underlying money flow, you're able to demystify all the business problems that you ever have in life. If you want to control life across the world, understand the food flow. Where does the food come from and where did it finally go? The most big or the biggest challenge that we as human race face right now, we are too disconnected from our food. We need to get connected again, because the point we get connected to our own food, we get connected to every single entity within our communities around us. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks 193rd episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, and if you're not in the future sessions, you can open your audio, say a big yes, and have an amazing evening ahead. Namaste.
Thank you, Daksh. Thank you for having us. We thoroughly enjoyed the interaction. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.